Trying to replicate some NFL music, Blake, because of our next guest. NFL insider senior analyst Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus. He's got the NFL podcast on that platform, pff.com. He joins us on the Sam Adams Oktoberfest guest line. We'll say that the SEC Insider Hit right now is brought to you by Burgers, Blues, and Barbecue and their honey buttered chicken biscuit, which would probably change Steve's life. Steve Palazzolo, what's going on, buddy? Good morning.
Every time you mention food, you got to send some up to Cincinnati.
I know it. You would freak out over this honey buttered chicken biscuit. I mean, it's real Southern. You know, it's real Sun Belt. It's very SEC. You and your crew, if we shipped some of those up to the PFF.com headquarters, y'all would lose your mind. Are you at the house or are you at the headquarters, or where are you right now?
I'm on my way. I'm about to get in the car to drive to the headquarters. On my way.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the MVP, Dak Prescott. Struggled a little bit early with some turnovers, and then got his mind right and played really, really well after that. What did Pro Football Focus see?
Yeah, it was a really good overall game for Dak. You know, a few of those big time throws hitting, hit the bomb to CD Lamb. That's your pure go route. I loved the touchdown he threw to Amari Cooper on the post. You know, I think maybe Romo, was it Romo on the call? Whoever the announcer was did say.
Troy Aikman
did a really nice job. Oh, it's Aikman. Yeah, it was right. I mean, the timing of getting that, just past the corner before the safety got there was really nice. So I think Dak had a bunch of those big-time throws, hit Schultz on the run on one. So really good game for Dak. And, the Cowboys continue to move it, man. It's the run game's good. The pass game's good. The defense continues to turn the ball over. So a lot of things trending in the right direction there.
Yeah, I think Aikman acknowledged that after that throw to CD that Dak's the best quarterback to ever play for the Cowboys. But, Blake, will you check on that for me just in case there's some audio out there? Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds show. Speaking, all right, Dalton Schultz, where is he? How do y'all see him as a player and a threat and emerging as one of maybe the better tight ends in the league, and obviously for Dak and the Cowboys?
Yeah, this is one of the surprises of the season. We just put out our quarter season All-Pro team before last week, and with Gronk hurt and everything, we had I think it was Kelsey number one, and then Schultz right there on the All-Pro team from through 4 games. He did have a drop the other day, but he's been really good. I mean, that was not expected, right? Every time I've described the Cowboys, it's look at this trio of receivers, and you have Cedric Wilson replacing Michael Gallup in that trio. They've been great, but having that middle of the field option in Schultz has been just really good for Dallas's offense and just gives them more weapons. So it's been a bit of a surprise. He went from a decent run blocking tight end to actually, another pass game weapon for Dak.
There's now this debate now that they're running the foot. Zeke has been motivated by Tony Pollard, and he's all of a sudden ripped off, I think, 3 good games. I'm still a little concerned that Kellen Moore will go too run heavy, but what do you and the crew from Pro Football Focus see from the offense as far as throwing it and running it with the Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely running it. They're definitely running it far better than they were, they didn't even try in week 1, and far better than they did last year when Dak was healthy. So, look, I always look at offenses and say they need to have answers for what the defense throws at them. There is this, Dak is good when you do face single high coverages. Single high coverages usually show up after you're running the ball a little bit, and defenses, have to account for the running game. So, me, I'm not one to preach the traditional balance, like you need to run at 50%, you got to pass at 50%. I'm certainly not going to give Urban Meyer's 250 passing yards, 250 rushing yard goal that he put out there the other day, which is ridiculous. But I think when defenses are giving you the run game, having a Zeke running the way he is now, which is so much better, having Tony Pollard, who's always run well and pretty much better than Zeke, those are good options to have. So it's like, all right, who are you going to defend? You're going to keep one-on-one on Amari Cooper? You're going to keep one-on-one on the great Dalton Schultz now? Or are you going to stop the run? CD Lamb, the whole deal. So it does give better options to the Dallas offense right now.
All right, so Belichick is known for messing with quarterbacks, their minds and disrupting offenses. However, the Patriots are not what they've been. Now, they made a rookie look silly a couple of weeks ago. Dak's not a rookie. So what are you looking at this weekend? What are your expectations with the Cowboys and the Patriots, Steve?
Yeah, Belichick generally does a good job of taking away the best options on the other team. And a lot of times historically that was a tight end. So it's like, hey, we're going to double team Antonio Gates or Dallas Clark. But again, we keep coming back to who's the best one? Who do you take away in Dallas, right? If it is Amari and CeeDee Lamb on the outside, they do have other options. So I do think, what New England likes to do is play man coverage and then take their extra defenders and take away those double team, essentially, those top options. So I could see the receivers being taken away. I think it's another game where New England might invite the run game. So it might be another game where Kellen is maybe, induced to run just a little bit. And that's the goal for the Patriots, is probably to slow down the game, try to keep it low scoring as much as they can. So I think it's got to be Dak making good decisions, not forcing it to his playmakers when they're not there. He's been good, in that respect, and taking the run game when it's there. So I think New England they weren't great last week against Davis Mills. They put a lot into their Tom Brady game plan. It was rain too, but a couple weeks ago they put a lot into that. But overall, this defense has not been great this year in New England. It's been, Zach Wilson throwing them the ball, and they haven't been great. But strategically, they're going to try to take away those outside receivers.
Man, I hope Kellen Moore doesn't get too conservative. That will play right into Bill Belichick. Blake, you got a question for Steve Palazzolo, senior analyst, PFF.com?
Yeah, we talk about explosive plays all the time, especially with the Ole Miss offense when it comes to SEC football.
Sure.
I see where PFF dropped that Dak Prescott has 7 passing touchdowns of 20 or more yards. That's the most in the NFL. Are they purposely going more vertical with Dak in air yards, or is this you have such great athletes that they're able to make plays or what do you make of that? Because Dak's not been necessarily the deep ball passer leader through the NFL in his first 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, I think they're just taking the shots when they're there. Again, when it's when there's a single high safety, it means you generally have one-on-one on the outside, and the single high safety has to choose a side of the field to help out on or help out with a seam route. So then you can have CD. Okay, here's CD on a go ball. Here's Amari on the post or whatever it might be. So I think they're just taking the opportunities when they're there. And again, I always say balance on offense is the ability to throw the ball short, throw it intermediate, throw it deep, and then run the ball when you have the option too. And again, I think Dallas has one of the more well-rounded offenses in the league. They can throw to all levels of the field. Now they can run the ball effectively when they need to. So it's just, that's what quarterbacks are to do, right? Is to take what the defense gives you. And when the shots are there, I think Dallas is taking them, and Dak's pretty much hitting them.
Steve Palazzolo on the Sam Adams Oktoberfest guest line, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. Let's switch gears. How Cowherd's beaten up on Baker Mayfield again. But you loved him since Oklahoma in the draft. He's been up and down, but at times looked good. What is PFF? How has he rated the last week or two, according to Pro Football Focus?
Yeah, so last week he had good numbers, but grade-wise, he hasn't been great especially 2 weeks ago. He had a rough game against Minnesota when they scored only 14 points. Last week he was okay. I think what we do well, though, is disconnect the quarterback from scheme and from, the system. He had like a 75-yarder to David Njoku, which was a fine throw, but it, should have been a 10-yarder, not a 75-yarder. So the stats were great for Baker. I think where he's lacking is, in that fourth quarter comeback situation, you just don't feel like he's going to make those plays. And he hasn't, in his last few opportunities, whether it was the playoff game against Kansas City last year, week 1 against Kansas City, last week against Chargers. That's where I think when you put everything on Baker's plate, we haven't necessarily seen him come through. When you do have him in a good system that's running the ball well, that's working the play action game, and he's hitting that first or second read, he's doing a good job. So I hate the term system quarterback. I think that's an overrated term, but you could definitely look at Baker so far his last 2 years with the Browns and say, okay, he's probably been elevated by his situation, especially when everybody's healthy. And now that next step is, very Cousins-ish. For a lot of Kirk Cousins' career, where's that next step? Where's that fourth quarter comeback? Where's that game where you need to, score 3 touchdowns to come from behind and you at least make it close? Whatever it might be. I think that's that next step that we need to see from Baker. And honestly, I think it's the next step the Browns want to see from Baker Mayfield. Can you carry us when we need you? Because they're trying to figure out if they should be, signing him long term.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at on Baker. I think he's good. I think, it's idiotic to question him when he's, putting up good numbers and, the Browns are having success. But you could also see that something's lacking, and he might be right on that cutoff of, do I really want to invest in him, or do I have to go find somebody else that's cheaper and younger?
If you had to guess, don't you think
my
they'll
hedge, by the way?
Yeah.
Hedging my bets on Baker.
But don't you think at the end of the day they'll invest in him and give him the big contract?
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, there's a few teams around the league that I know operate a little bit differently. They'll think outside the box. The Ravens are one of them. The Browns are one of them. I think the Chargers are starting to lean that way. But the Browns, especially from the top down, it's numbers heavy, it's analytics heavy. And if they're considering all the variables, which I know they do, one of the variables is, okay, if you have this quarterback that you just don't know is top 8 or top 10 in the NFL, and you pay him, say, Cousins-like money, which is 15, 20% of the cap in a given year. If you make that investment, you are really, really hurting your chances of winning unless that quarterback plays at a top 5 level. So I think the Browns will at least consider that. I think, Baker's putting them in a difficult spot, whereas, I think Dak, jumped that hurdle, so to speak. You feel pretty good about Dak being this top 8 type of guy now, I think. Lamar Jackson, he can carry a team. I think Baker's putting the Browns in a tough spot where they really have to consider this, and it's not what we've seen in the past where Jared Goff gets the money and Carson Wentz gets the money. I think the Browns have to think twice about this one.
Let me go back to the Cowboys real quick. Are you buying them as an NFC, a legit NFC contender?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought going into last year, and then they just kept losing, and then Dak got hurt. My take on them this year was, okay, I'm expecting this offense to be explosive. I'm expecting it to be one of the better offenses in the league. When you have a very good quarterback, an MVP caliber quarterback maybe even, like a Dak, and you have all those playmakers, you've got a good baseline, all right? You're going to move the ball. Then it was a matter of, how bad is the defense going to be this year? Can they get better? They've gotten better, right? They've got some playmakers, Trayvon Diggs, maybe not as good as his 6 interceptions. He's given it up as well, but they're turning the ball over. We'll see if they can keep that up. Yeah, I mean, Dallas has all the ingredients to be there in the end. Their only loss is a field goal loss to the Bucs, right? They're a kick away from being undefeated. So I think absolutely Dallas is in the NFC mix.
He is Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus on the Out of Bounds show. All right, let's go to the Chiefs. How concerned should people who follow the Chiefs, love the Chiefs? I know the defense is not good right now. Is Mahomes winging it too much? How concerned should Chiefs fans be?
So I think there's a difference between Chiefs fans' level of concern because the standard is so high, right? I mean, I think we're expecting the Chiefs to be like the next dynasty, to be like the Patriots. The Patriots went to, 10 straight AFC championships. You could, write them in at the beginning of the season. Those are the expectations in Kansas City. So I think through that lens, yeah, there should be some concern because you want to have a home field game in the playoffs. The expectations are high. I think the national response, if people are saying that's it, the Chiefs are done, the dynasty's over, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves if that's the take. But I think the defense is an issue. We know that, we've seen that. I do think Mahomes is playing under, putting himself under too much pressure. I don't think he's playing within structure enough. And I do think it still comes down to the Chiefs spent this entire offseason fixing the offensive line. And I think they've done a good job of it. The offensive line's been fine. But all that investment has left holes on other spots in the roster, namely the defense, right? They don't have enough playmakers there, but also on the offense. When Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are taken out of the game, the Chiefs don't have a go-to option. They don't have another answer. And I think that's a bigger deal than the offensive line. So there should be some concerns. All that said, I mean, it's the Chiefs. I think they'll figure it out. Mahomes hasn't even played great yet this year. He hasn't played to his career baseline. He'll play better. They'll beat up on some teams. And they've also played the second hardest schedule in the NFL to this point. So so that's a big factor. Look at it. They played the Browns, the Chargers, the Ravens, and then last week lost to the Bills. Those are some tough games, and teams are giving them their best shot every week, going for fourth downs, all these things. So I'm not terribly concerned with the Chiefs. I think they'll be there in the end, but it won't be as much of a cakewalk as maybe people expected because they've, set such a high standard.
Okay, who do you – between the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs, you may throw somebody else in there on the AFC side. Yeah. Who do you like more right now? And I know things change, every couple of weeks with injuries and so on. But walk me through what you see with the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs, Steve.
So I think the Bills look like the most well-rounded team. They can win with defense. Even then, they've played some bad quarterbacks, Big Ben, Davis Mills in a rainstorm. So that's inflated their defensive numbers. But we saw what they did against the Chiefs last week, even though it rained there too. The Bills have the most well-rounded team. The Ravens are intriguing because look at Lamar the other day. The fact that they can win through the air when they need to throw, that was a big question mark that I think they're starting to answer. And the Ravens they always do smart things, as I said earlier. They're chucking the ball down the field. Lamar's throwing the ball 2 yards per attempt further down the field this year than he has in previous years.
Oh.
That just creates that's where those explosive plays come from. So they might not be, they're an efficient team, but now they're creating these chunk plays, or at least these chunk play opportunities while their run game is trying to figure things out. I think the Chiefs will be there in the end, and I'll throw the Chargers in there, right? The Chargers are doing smart things under Brandon Staley. Justin Herbert's in the MVP conversation. He's playing great football. He's playing better than Mahomes and some other quarterbacks, better than Josh Allen. So the Chargers have to be in that mix as well, and that's the fun part, right? The AFC is wide open because you got some good young quarterbacks and you got some good young coaches and good coaches in general, and it's really more wide open than expected.
Yeah, I love what my Chargers are doing. Look, growing up, Steve, I was a huge Air Coryell, Dan Fouts, and Kellen Winslow Sr. fan. And then they kind of broke my heart. But anyway, I love I love their uniforms, and I love the fact that they were able to sling it. Blake, you have a question for Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, you went out on the West Coast, and it got me thinking. We mentioned this earlier. Is Cliff Kingsbury getting better as a head coach, or is Kyler Murray just insane and is doing things like a la Michael Vick, where it's just he's unstoppable in a one-on-one scenario?
I think it's Kyler getting better and the talent around them getting better. So I don't know that Cliff's doing anything different schematically, but when you just putting Christian Kirk from outside receiver into the slot, it just adds an explosive threat. I love Larry Fitzgerald, but Fitzgerald in year 18 of his career was catching screen passes, and they're trying to have him create after the catch. That's just not good offense. Now Rondale Moore is taking those plays. Rondale is dynamic. He's a first-round caliber receiver that they got in the second round. So just adding Rondale Moore, and A.J. Green's been pretty solid on the outside, and he's a complementary piece to what they have with DeAndre Hopkins, still the star number one, even though he's been banged up. So, me, 3, 4, 5 playmakers here, go cover them. And that's what's really helped. Now, Kyler's also hitting more throws, and then he's got some of those Vick-ish type of plays, right? A few times per game. Yeah. Where, hey, go ahead and stop me. I'm going to scramble around. I'm going to scramble to throw too, which is what I love. That's what Kyler does, right? He doesn't scramble to run. He scrambles to throw. He's created some big plays off of that. So it just makes Arizona so dangerous. I think their defense is fragile. I think the back end, it's going to be tough for them to hold up this entire season, but I love what they're doing offensively. And I think it's mostly Kyler and those playmakers taking them to the next level.
And for our listeners, Steve Keim, the general manager for the Arizona Cardinals, looks like a 3A pulling guard from 1981. So I love how much he looks like a football dude. And, he's bald. He's, as he described himself, thick. And, yeah, he looks like a 3 or 4. Like Steve knows this. He looks like a guy in rural Ohio that has to play left guard on Friday night, and he's the Mike linebacker, too. He's a thumper. So
love it.
They got some good stuff going on. Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up with the Saints. Saints fans are in this weird spot right now. I can't get a read on Who Dat Nation. What does Pro Football Focus see?
Saints fans are just dealing with the Jameis coaster. It's because you just don't know what to expect. You just came off of 15 years of Drew's pretty much going to play well. And if he randomly has a bad game, okay, it'll show up. But there's not going to be like a reason for it. It's like, oh, Drew was just off today. With Jameis, you just never know. You really never know what you're going to get. And I can understand it leads to some angst, I think, from the fan base. I think it's an interesting – they're doing a good job, I think, of generally taking care of the ball, taking the ball out of Jameis's hands. But the games where they've run the ball a ton and Jameis hasn't had to do much, he's been very efficient. But there's still that volatility there. You just don't know what you're going to get in a given week. And when Jameis makes that pass where he's fallen over, one week it was a touchdown, one week it was an interception. You just don't know. So I think I'm still of that mind. I don't know either, right? I mean, there's the deep ball here and there. They blew the game against the Giants. But overall, I think the Saints are still a good team. They can cover really, really well. The secondary is playing great. And, if you get good Jameis, they're a competitive team. You just don't know which week it's going to be, 3, 4, 5 turnovers coming from him.
Sure. All right, one more real quick. What's your game of the week this weekend in the NFL?
Oh, it's definitely Ravens-Chargers. I mean, when you look
Bam.
at both 4-1 teams, as the Ravens looked like – I mean, the Ravens season was on the brink of collapse on Sunday Night Football. They were going to go 0-2 against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. They almost lost to the Lions. I mean, they're just hanging tough, and the Chargers are coming off that 47-42 win. It's going to be great because it's cat and mouse game trying to stop Lamar, trying to stop Justin Herbert, two coaches who are going to go for it on fourth downs and make it exciting and competitive. It's going to be the game of the week, Ravens, Chargers, and, of course, playoff implications with these two teams.
I like that, and it's a noon Central Time kick for us, so bam. Got to get your mind right early on that one. And that's our Tito's Vodka Bloody Mary game in the NFL. All right, Steve Palazzolo, we appreciate it, man. Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, senior analyst with the podcast, rolling through the Out of Bounds show. Have a great week, buddy. Thank you, man.
All right. Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, that was great. All right, that was like a 38-ounce tomahawk steak on the NFL. We started with Dak and the Cowboys. Dalton Schultz, Blake. Number 2, according to PFF, right behind Kelsey from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Killing it, man.
If Schultz can stay healthy, because, man, when you're catching it in the middle of the field, you don't ever know in this league. Ugh. But, man, if he stays healthy and Amari gets healthy and Gallup gets back, wow, you've got weapons for days. Pollard, Zeke, Dak, Wilson.
They're the second most
Cooper,
efficient offense
Schultz,
in the league, and they don't
Gallup.
have their number 2 receiver.
Yeah, they don't have Gallup. And Amari's kind of hobbling around out there, but still making plays. What does he have, Blake, a tweaked hamstring or something?
That's right.
I like Dalton Schultz.
And he cracked his ribs.
And I like his name. It's like he's in one of those Tom Cruise movies. Was it like MI6 or something? Yeah. Or maybe James Bond. Live in the Bank Plus studio, the Out of Bounds show is brought to you by Havana Smoke Shop for all your premium sticks for game day. Havana Smoke Shop.